Yes, by checking that checkbox on that says Rescale, Resize Pattern Tiles, which is this checkbox right here, Transform Pattern Tiles. There's also another way to unlock it from the mask, and I'll show you that too. I'm going to keep that clicked off though. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. I've created a circle. And above this circle, I'm going to create a petal-like shape. It's not lined up where I want it to be yet, and it's not really the petal color I want it to be yet. I'm going to make it a yellow color. There's the yellow color. And Z for zoom, and I'm going to click on it. Now, I'm going to go to the bottom curve point and select it right there. Okay, there's that point. It is selected, and I selected it with the direct selection tool. And then I'm going to switch to the pen with the anchor point tool, changer tool, pen, arrow, pointy thing with no pen. It doesn't look like a pen. It looks like an upside down V, or the caret tool. When I click on the bottom point here, it's going to change it from a curve to a corner point. So now it has more of a petal-like shape. And I'm going to move these 2 points using the direct selection tool up to round the top of the petal a little more. And that's the shape I want it to be. Following that, I want to find the center of the circle. So I'm using, where is it? I'm using my, there it is, center, using my smart guides and my smart feedback there, my HUD, my heads up display, and I now know the center of the circle, and so I can place the petal right on that center mark. And I'm going to zoom out. Maybe I want it a hair closer to the flower, so the middle here. And now I also would be helpful to see the other crosshairs here, the other center of this strange little flower. So the center's kind of big, but I think it's going to be okay. So I'm going to select the petal shape and use the rotate tool. With the rotate tool now selected and the yellow petal selected, I'm going to press the Option key, or if you're on a PC, the Mac, and it changes the functionality of the rotate tool. It allows me to click on the spot I want to rotate from, or the origin point, and open up the rotate dialog box. Here I'm going to put in a number that is evenly distributed by 360, the number of degrees of a circle. And so I'll put 36, not 33. And I will also click copy. So it's going to rotate around this point 36 degrees and make a copy. And there's the second one. So I'll go Command D, Command D, Command D, and then I'll have 10 petals perfectly rotated around the circle. If I select all, Command A, and deselect the center, Shift click, I can also now go to the Scale tool. Scale tool, this is really important stuff for you to be watching and taking in. I'm going to go back to that center point, the crosshair in the middle of the center of the flower, and click one time, which means I'm going to be scaling from the center. And when I click and drag, you can see all the petals are staying aligned with each other, but now they are basically copying in place or sizing in place. And I'm going to hold down the Option key while I do this, which is also now going to make a copy of those. And I'm going to give them another color, this color. Okay. So I'm taking advantage of this copy key, the Option key. If I want this to be in the front now, or want it smaller, if I want it in the front, I'll cut it, Command X, Command A to select all, and Command F to paste in front. So again, this thing I did with the petals, I'll select just the yellow petals here, holding the Shift key down as I go around the circle to select each petal. And this time I'm going to use a different tool just to see what it does. This is the Shear tool, and I'm going to click in the center of the flower and start shearing, and I get this kind of weird off-centery shape petal situation. And I want it just, there it goes, like that. So there's one of these oddly sheared ones for each petal, and I'm going to hold the Option key again, and I'm going to change the color again to not that color, to this color, that'll do. And or if I want to change that one more time, double click, okay, there it is, and just get a little more yellow like that. Brava. And cut it, Command X, select all, Command A, and paste them back, Command B. So now I have something that's a little bit more surprising than just your average little flower. And it takes up almost the entire area of my pattern, which I don't want it to do. Of course, that's a really easy way to make a pattern by just putting one thing in it and then letting it scale. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to scale this so it's about 1/4 of the size. And copy and paste it, or Option click and drag it. Might be smart to group this, so I'll group it. Here I am grouping it, selecting all these elements. Object, group. This is the last pattern tile I'm going to do unless there's questions. And then I will duplicate it, so I'll drag it across once and then select them both and drag them down. And carefully looking at the distance that they have between them versus the distance from their edges. And I'm not going to get all mathy on you now, but what I will do is select all this content and put it into the swatches panel. Zoom out. I'm going to just cut those. Select a shape. Here's a nice large ellipse. It wants to fill with orange. I'm going to fill it with something other than orange, something really hideous like blue. And copy and paste the same circle, Command V. Just going to let this go on top of it, or close enough to on top of it, and fill it. So you can see I need to do some adjustment at the left and right edges and the top and bottom edges to equalize the spacing between them, as I showed you with the first star pattern. Yes?
Why did you need to copy the ellipse?
Because I wanted one that is blue behind the one that is transparent. So the one that's filled on top has a transparent background, and the blue is the same shape and size as the daisy background. So I don't want it to look transparent in this case. I want to see what it's going to look like on top of another color. That is why. And I want to be able to have, even if it's not a gradient right now, I should be able to put a gradient in that background element and have something other than just a flat colored background. Okay, any questions? Yes?
So once you put that gradient, then you can make a new pattern out of it? Just try it all.
Cannot make a pattern out of a gradient. That's just a pattern that's in a circle or an ellipse that I want as something to set the pattern, which is the daisies, off. It's just an element. It's not a pattern. It's just a gradient background. Question?
Is transparency available on the swatches?
Transparent is not a color, but this is to make it no color. So yes. So if I click this and I tell it this, it now has no fill and no stroke, which is transparent. So yes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That's what that is, the little strike through. Okay, so now it's filled with black. All right, so making geometric patterns can be a lot of fun and really easy, and you have all these geometric tools in here that you might want to play with. Just for kicks and giggles, if you go into the polygon tool, you're not going to be able to adjust the polygon edges. This is the polygon tool. It's inside of the shape tools. I mean the sides, how many sides do I want? You have to press Option click, and now this is opening up the polygon menu. This is actually the number of sides I want, but here I could also set this to a specific size, like 1 inch, and now I have a 1 inch polygon filled with my daisy little bit. So not showing very much there. If I make a larger polygon, clearly it's filling it. Does this make sense, people? We're so far so good? All right, so, and the last thing I would say is I could, in addition, use geometry, use geometric forms in negative and positive to create patterns pretty quickly.
Are there any stock patterns, like just like polka dot?
Well, if you take a look in the pattern flyout menu, If you go to swatches and then you go over here to pattern swatches, let's go to swatches, flyout menu, come on, new swatch, swatch options, open swatch library, okay, and then these are colors, but we have in here patterns, basic, graphic, dots, graphic lines, graphic textures, scientific, analogous, complementary, whoa, no, that's not patterns, decorative, legacy, and Vonster patterns, and nature. So what is this Vonster patterns? I don't know what that means. Vonster patterns. These are them. Can't see them very well. If I go to the flyout menu and I go to large thumbnail view, you can see them better. And if I create an object that is large enough to hold a pattern, I can click on a pattern and fill it with this pattern. Ooh, ah. Okay. They're pretty small. Ooh, pretty. Okay, so with this, last thing here, I'm going to show you how to break apart a pattern.
Do you mind saying one more time the thing you said about increasing the size of the stars versus increasing the size outside, keeping the stars the same size?
You bet. So right here, I have a lot more of these filled elements than maybe I want to deal with. So I'm going to undo, and then I'm going to go back to Illustrator, Preferences, General, and I'm going to click back on this Transform Pattern Tiles. So this time when I scale it, it will keep the same number of tiles, same number of elements inside the pattern. It will just make them bigger. So with the checkbox on, this will scale the elements inside the pattern. So when I do that, they're staying the same number of them. The total number is the same. So that's the answer to your question. So Command K brings up preferences. With this checkbox turned off, you'll get more pattern elements. With this checkbox turned on, it will change their size. On is scale. And then if you look here, if you notice, if you take one of these corners, as I've said, it's almost as if you're revealing, like the pattern's, oh, what the heck? The pattern's filling the whole sheet. Well, the pattern's really not filling the whole sheet, but what it's doing is it's acting like a mask. So if we take a look on the Layers panel, at this layer, you can see there's all these things, guides and path, and inside this path is not very clear what's going on, but I'm going to select this path, clicking it, and I'm going to go to Object, Expand, because ungroup isn't available, so it must be expand. I'm going to expand, and it's expanding the fill, because that's all there is, and click OK. Now, it doesn't seem like anything happened, but it really should have happened. Do it. Object, expand, and expand. There we go. Specify to 255 objects. What the heck? Now, if I select with the direct selection now, you can see these are actually drawn elements. Some person, some sick person like yourself, drew this thing at some point in time. I'm going to zoom in on it. So this is what it is. These crazy intricate shapes. And if I select this again, here I'm selecting it's inside of this mask, and I go Object, Clipping Mask, Release. There we go. Now you can see that it's essentially is a grid, and this is what or a square, and this is what one square of this would have looked like. Let's turn this back on again. You can see the squares in here. Can you guys see that? It's a little hard to see, but this is what fits inside of one square. So I'm going to just use a very quick mask here to click away and select red rectangle and come up to these edges of, it's really hard for me to see it too. That's one side, and this is top, so left top, bottom. There we go. And right. And that needs to be moved over to there. So that is what the original pattern tile could look like if it's drawn in one piece, perfectly filling up a square. Is that helpful information? Yes, yes it is. I'm going to stop this recording.